Good afternoon, Santa Clarita, and everyone else streaming around the world. You're listening to the Unreality Show, where we talk about all the dysfunctional behaviors in TV reality shows and learn from them. We open up discussions, kind of point out some of the things that happen on the shows. Today, we're actually talking about Housewives of New York, and we looked at episode 10, Blackout or Get Out. We have Jerry Cerati Goldman in studio joining us, along with Ellen Tunick. Ladies, thanks for being here today.
You bet. Our pleasure.
Let's talk about this show. Who wants to start?
Oh, I've got, like I said, copious notes on this show. Copious notes. Obviously, it was centered around arguing. And when it opened up, and obviously the emphasis was this argument between Bethany and Ramona. So, obviously, there was alcohol involved, no question. But there was a lot of bringing up the past. And we all argue. Is there, do you bring up the past? Is there value in bringing up the past when you argue? And if there is a reason to bring up the past, how do you do that? How do you have an argument? That's my question. How do you have an argument?
Well, first of all, let me address the bringing up the past. I feel like bringing up the past is okay if you're in a healthy mind and you have a healthy relationship. You use the past to be able to set something up, to have a conversation in the now. You don't bring up the past to take shots at somebody. You don't bring up the past to dig at someone or to guilt someone. You got to look at the intention. And so when you bring up the past, you got to say, what's your intention when you bring the past up? And if you're in an unhealthy mind, an unhealthy context, and you're unconscious and you bring up the past, most of the time you're going to use it to hurt somebody, to take digs, to take stabs, you're using it with the intention to hurt the other person.
That person.
Yeah. So it's really, it really brings the question is, what's your intention when you bring up the past? If you're bringing it up to learn from it, if you're bringing it up to evaluate it such
to
that
resolve conflict.
That's right. Or if I can bring up the past so that I can take responsibility for something that I could have done or should have done, then it's a different context.
With the coaching that you give us, if we've got an issue with someone, you have taught us to just get it cleared, get it taken care of sooner rather than later. And then there's not the bag full of crap to throw out, because that's what Ramona did. It was like...
It was more than a bag.
She hit on every... if I was her, she should be getting off the show.
What I teach leadership teams is to not have withholds. So if I did something to you and it rubbed you the wrong way, or you're upset about something, you have permission to call me up and go, hey, and you have a safe space to go, hey, you did something or said something that, pressed my buttons, and I want to have a conversation with about it. I want to let you know however you want to share that. And I give you that open space to do that. And I'm compassionate for that. That's how you really feel. And so there's a chance to clean it up like two powerful people can, so that we can move forward.
And it was fascinating to me how the more Ramona yelled, "You're kidding me! You're kidding me! You are," the quieter and calmer Bethany got, which made Ramona angrier and angrier. So there was a lot of what I perceived as some passive aggressiveness on Bethany's part, knowing that if she sat, that she would make Ramona nuts.
Yeah. And so when I was talking about cleaning it up so there's no more withholds, it's obvious that they both have a lot of withholds that were stacking up. Now, what do you think happens when you have a bunch of withholds that you just keep stacking up and piling up? At a certain point, what happens? You blow. That's what happened. Was they both had so many withholds that they just kept stuffing. And I talk about a lot of times on an emotional tank that we have, that we just keep stuffing that tank with withholds, and we never, call people out in a healthy way, or let's discuss it so that we can both get off of it or flush it out so we can start brand new again. What happens is you have all these withholds, and all of a sudden you get into the perfect storm.
And that was a perfect storm.
The perfect setting for you guys to just now become, cats and dogs.
Well, and you guys haven't seen this week's show, but on this week's show, she chalked it up to blacking out to a group of young women, which was a total cop-out. Instead of taking accountability, I mean, I had a lifetime of stuff that came up with this. I got tagged, whatever. She said she copped it out and said, I blacked out. She didn't black out. I mean, I know we're on Facebook, but this is what she was doing. It was crazy. She was drunk as heck.
Yes.
Did you see how she was like all over her?
Well, I could see it. I could see it in her face. So now we're presented with the question: not everybody that is your friend or in your sphere of friends is of healthy mind. So when you are healthy and you go to someone who is a friend and is not of healthy mind, how do you have this conversation, this argument, because she purely, even if Bethany had come to her and said, let's have a discussion, let's be healthy here, let's clean our closets, it's not possible at this point in Ramona's life. And what she chooses to do is deflect. Constant deflection. When something is brought up, deflect. How do you do that? Because a lot of people are not healthy, but it doesn't mean that they're not in our circle of friends.
And here comes the box on the shelf.
I think that when you're with somebody that isn't emotionally, mentally, and spiritually healthy in a relationship, you just don't engage in those kinds of conversations. You don't call out. It's like if you had an addiction and it was an unhealthy addiction, let's call it a drug addiction, and I know that you're not in the right mind to be able to have a conversation with you that's healthy and spirited and uplifting, and I know that you don't have that capacity, I'm not going to have that conversation with you. Because I know if I go into the conversation with you, anything I say, you're going to take it, turn it around, and you're going to see it as a dig. Or you're going to take it and you're going to misinterpret it or interpret it the way you want, and you're going to turn it into something that now is going to be a dagger coming back at me. So I just don't engage in those kinds of conversations. You can't help somebody that's not helpable.
There to be helped.
Yeah, they're not ready. Ramona's not ready to grow, to evolve, to learn, to discover.
To be open to any of that.
To have healthy-minded, rational conversations. She's full tilt right now.
She really is.
And this is what's sad about reality shows is whatever network has these shows, they're smart. They figured out how to really take Dysfunction 101 in a group of people that are interesting and major dysfunction and exploit it. And the rest of us are sitting there watching it because we're glued to we want to see people unravel. We want to see people fall to pieces. Now, what if a month from now you find out that Ramona was so broken and lost that she ended up taking her life? At what point do we as a consciousness go, wait a minute, we've exploited this lady. We've thrown millions at her dysfunction, and we all got to watch her unravel to the point that she broke, couldn't take it no more, and ended her own life. I don't think we really think about some of those consequences, and we don't, we're not that mindful to really look at what we're watching. Because I watched it and I walked away feeling really disturbed. I felt
it was disturbing.
My heart hurt for her more importantly, but for a lot of them. It was just I just felt unsettled. It was like, here we are watching these people unravel, and we can't wait for the next time that they.
What does that say about us?
It just says that we got to this point. Reality, when the first reality show started, it was interesting, and then it got now to the point where I don't know if it's being coerced or maybe, and I never even considered this, that they're acting to a level that that Ramona's not really like this, unless she's just the best actress in the world, that she's not really like this. She's just putting on the best show that she's ever done.
And I believe that because I have never seen craziness. I've never had craziness with girlfriends.
To that level.
Even
even half that level.
A millimeter of
And
that
now,
level.
if that's the case, then this is basically like WWF.
Yes.
Because WWF, think about it. The World Wrestling Federation back in the 70s had, and they would slap each other. And I remember being a kid going, that doesn't look real to me. And I remember my cousins going, yes, it is. And so Randy Macho, and they're like all into it. And I'm watching everyone, and I'm going, it looks fake. I watch real boxing. I watch real wrestling.
And this doesn't look anything like that.
It don't look real. It looks like the punches are, like, it looks like they're selling you this facade and you're buying it. And so if that's the case, then Ramona is like one of the best actresses I've ever seen if she's not really being dysfunctional
And
like
she's
that.
securing her spot on the show year after year.
Of course she
by
is.
doing that. So
are you
that's
kidding
what I
me?
believe. I believe she is crazy, but I believe that a lot of it is probably a bonus. She probably gets paid more for causing it and causing the storylines that gets
And,
her.
well,
She might even get producer rights.
My question also
creative
is-
director.
created a line of wine that does multi-millions of
There's
dollars.
a lot of alcohol involved with these women.
That's something I don't get either.
What don't you get?
Give me dessert before you give me alcohol. I get to choose one or the other. I'll take the dessert.
Some of them are doing both. They're having
Well,
a little bit
but
of wine,
then
a little
the
bit-
one who does the most, which again is Ramona, presents itself as someone who is in such pain that she medicates as much as she can. So the fact that anybody thinks they can have any type of rational conversation with her is ridiculous. And so to bring that into our own life, if, you're having a party, you're all, out by the pool, everybody's sipping and drinking, just be aware enough that if you want to have a conversation with someone, on the tipsy meter, figure out where it is and make sure that you don't have the wrong conversation at the wrong time. I mean, that was my take from that first portion. But so much resentment on both their parts. And that's another emotion and feeling that I'd love for you to talk about, Alex. The feeling, of resentments. How does an individual cope with that feeling of resentment? Because there was a lot of resentment spewing between the two of them.
And before you start, I believe that a lot of it, where the reality did come in, is that it's jealousy. Bethany started from a lot less than all the other women, I believe, and has achieved more because she's a hard worker. And I think a lot of it's jealousy. So I think what the reality is there is the jealousy with icing on the cake. But to be that vicious, because Ramona was there when Bethany had her surgery and needed the help and needed that mothering instinct. So to go that deep and cut that deep had to be a jealousy that's just been brewing for many, many years.
I think that underneath, at the core, there's a lot of brokenness. And I really saw it in Ramona when she broke down. There's a lot of healing that still has to happen for a lot of those women, and they haven't gotten that healing. They haven't completed their past. So a lot of their past comes back to haunt them, and it could be childhood stuff. And I mean, I don't want to be, Dr. Phil here and kind of psychologically go down that road, but they have a lot of healing to get done, and they haven't done that work. And so they're the perfect storm for the perfect reality show, because they have a bunch of personalities that they're around as their friends, and they just keep re-aggravating old open wounds, and it's just it's a mosh pit for disaster, for dysfunction. And we're all sitting here watching it just going, whoa, and we're being entertained by it.
That's the really interesting part, is it is entertaining.
Yeah, and that's why they sell, commercials and products, because to watch somebody go unhinged and, for the wheels to fall off is like, we can't wait to see what happens next. It's like shock TV. We've gotten to the point where it's so shocking that we're watching this thing unfold, and it's kind of heartbreaking. So,
I wonder on some level, when we watch this, does it make the viewer feel better about themselves?
Before I answer that or kind of jump on that, I want to reiterate what the show's about. It's called The Unreality Show, and we talk about all the major dysfunctions that happens in reality shows, and we kind of break down some of the dysfunctions and see how we can learn from them. Because as you and I know, we can watch reality TV and really just watch it unconsciously, or we can actually watch it from the perspective of, wow, I hope I don't act like that, or hope I don't do that, or I'm watching someone else mirror maybe my dysfunction. I go, wow, I can do that sometimes. Oop, maybe I should, learn how to course correct that. So that's what the show's about. Just in case you're joining us and wondering why we're having this discussion about Ramona and Bethany on the Real Housewives.
So many beliefs that they carry with them. The belief that, someone has done them wrong, the belief that they have it harder than everybody else. All these beliefs that play into how they interact with each other and how they show up in their own life. This whole belief thing versus what's the real truth thing.
But that's part of all dysfunction, our limiting beliefs. You grew up in a home where you created limiting beliefs about yourself or about the world or about other people or about relationships. And those beliefs are your truth. And so what you do is you go the rest of your life validating that those are real or those are true. So here's an example. If you had a boyfriend that cheated on you when you were 16 or 17, and then
all men are scum.
Right? And then you find another good guy and you fall in love with him and he seems to be, the mama's boy, and you trust him and you give him your heart and he breaks it and he cheats on you. Now you create a new belief that all men can't be trusted. So these are beliefs that we have about ourselves, about the world, about the way that we interact in life. And we go through life now validating that those beliefs are true, and we live as though they're true. So when we're in an argument, a lot of times we're arguing from that belief system. And that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about healthy-minded. If you have these self-limiting beliefs and these limiting beliefs in general, you're not of healthy mind. And you see the world in one way, and that's it. And that's the only way that you see it. And you're going to fight to the death to be right about that's how I see it. That's how arguments actually start. If you haven't realized, an argument is just two people fighting to be what?
Right.
They're fighting.
That's how wars start.
They're fighting to be right about a belief.
A belief, an opinion, a belief.
And the way that I see it, this is it. And so what you saw was Ramona and Bethany both arguing about the way that they saw it. And if we learn how to not fight and defend our belief, but allow other people to have their own belief or their own opinion, we'll get along. There won't be dysfunctions and arguments. There won't be all that. But then there won't be a reality show to sell millions of dollars worth of products.
It's also interesting that somehow in life, in society, something comes in that says being right is important. Maybe we should be taught along the way that being right is not all that important.
But that takes a higher level of consciousness, and we have to start learning how to teach our young kids that at an early age. So that starts with schools that open up those kinds of conversations and start teaching win-win. Allowing other people to have their own opinion, honoring each other. That's where all the morals and values come in. They're supposed to come in at our churches or our spiritual centers, but I don't know how much of that is actually parlaying into our schools too. So, or our parents are supposed to be teaching us that, to respect other people's opinions, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not being done. Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Yeah. There are some schools out there like SCVI I lead, a major charter school that's been around for many years and doing amazing work in our community. It's a gift that's in our community, and they, I believe, are teaching their kids that.
Yeah, they're not telling the kids how to think. They're asking them open-ended questions for the kids to, dig down deep inside them, find their own morals and values, and figuring out what's right and wrong, and then coming up with their own beliefs, rather than projecting the world beliefs or the teacher's beliefs onto the kids. And so what we're learning how to do is learning how to raise kids that are thinking for themselves, developing critical thinking, rather than telling them, no, this is how you should be thinking.
Yeah, it's this way or no way.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what, let's go on a break. When we come back, we'll talk more about all the major dysfunctions on the Real Housewives of New York City. Stay tuned for more of the Unreality Show right here in your hometown station, KHTS.